All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. This is what, number 13 or something of that nature. So I only have a couple of questions here that I want to discuss today, and I might add my own questions in here today, but there were two questions that kind of stood out to me that I think really not need to be answered, but I really could go into detail about. Okay, so we're gonna really hop right into it. I don't think there's any announcements I have. No, not really. So let's get right into it. So, for those of you who are new, we do a weekly podcast every Friday. It's the day we try and get them out. And these podcasts are going to be on soccer related topics for the most part. Sometimes we might do motivation or something that not only applies to soccer, but to life in general as well. But for the most part, this is a soccer channel. So we're going to try and keep it on the topic of soccer. So tune in every Friday where we'll have these, and you can leave questions below down in the comments for me, down below in the comments, and I may answer your question if I like it, or I think it definitely needs to be answered, or I think a lot of players are asking the same question or something like that. So the first question I have today that stood out was how to improve speed of thought. And the way this question was asked, they didn't mean like how to improve your vision, which is very important, but how to improve your speed of thought. So basically, how to quickly think of something to do and then do it. Because as we all know, especially in positions where space is limited, you don't have a lot of time to really plan out what you're going to do when you receive the ball, or even when you don't have the ball. There's a lot of instinct that goes into it. You have to make quick decisions, and vision does tie into this, because if without vision, it's going to make this much more difficult. But let's discuss, how do you improve your speed of thought? Now, one thing that I want to debunk right away, a myth I want to debunk right away, is this idea that, speed of thought and vision, these are God-given gifts that some players have and some players don't. No, it's not that. It's a learned process like anything else. Some players pick up on it a lot more quickly. Like you think of like a Pirlo or a Gerrard or a Xavi. Who else? A Silva. These are all players we attribute to, or we believe and see as having incredible vision, but also the ability to make quick decisions and, be able to play quickly, to have, as the question says, fast speed of thought, right? They think quickly, they make the decision, and they go through with it, and they have the technique to do it. So we think of those kind of players, and we think, oh, these guys are masteros, they're technicians, they're tempo creators, they control the tempo of the match. And we think, okay, it's just God-given talent. They were born this way. They just have this thing that other players don't have. They have this vision. They see things other players don't see. And although there may be an element of truth to that there might be, there's definitely talent involved with any of these players, with all of these players. But the fact of the matter is, this can be learned like anything else. Never think you can't learn something. Never think you can't get good at something. I know when you are looking at a player like a Pirlo, for example, and you see, wow, this guy, he sees things that I don't see, and he's able to play a 40-yard ball just perfectly. And you look at that and you think, I can't do that. Well, you can't do that yet. Pirlo could not always do that. I mean, maybe as a professional he could, but he's been practicing for years and perfecting this for years. It's not something that he just woke up one day and had. We get into, and I think I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, but there's a thing called media bias. And what media bias is we look at something, obviously on the media, since that's where the phrase comes from, but we look at something, say like a successful person. So let's take Pirlo, for example, a successful footballer, and we look at his range of passing, and we look at the way he's able to just make decisions quickly. He knows what's around him. He has an awareness of the players around him. He has vision. He's able to pick a pass that other players can't, and all this. And we think, wow, I can never do that. He's just so good. And we get into this media bias phase, which we think, we don't see what went on behind it. It's also, I think it's also called the Iceberg Effect. I don't know if that's an actual technical term, but basically what it is you see the tip of the iceberg, which is Pirlo's ability to pass his vision, but you don't see the bottom of the iceberg. And if you know anything about icebergs, the part of the iceberg you see above the water is usually the smallest part of the iceberg. If you were to go underwater and take a look at how big the iceberg is underwater, it's multiple times more larger underwater than above. But we only see that surface level of the iceberg usually. But what this represents is there is so much that Pirlo or Gerrard or Xavi or any player who's at the top level has done in order to make that visible part of the iceberg so good. So there's a lot of work below the iceberg, the submerged part, the part under the water. There's all this hard work, this concentration, this research, this experimentation, these failures and mistakes that he's made, along with everything else that allowed him to get good at these things. So first and foremost, and this doesn't just go for your speed of thought or your speed of play or your vision or anything, first and foremost, realize that with anything, when you're looking at someone who is good, you got to make sure you don't look at it with a media bias. You have to recognize that that person had to work hard, usually harder than most people, definitely harder than the majority of people. Pirlo is within the 1% of footballers who have worked hard enough to get to where he is. But you have to make sure you're not looking at it from a media bias in the sense that you're seeing him and thinking, he must just be talented. He must just be that good without work. I'm just looking at him now and he's just so good and I don't know how he got there. Realize that years and years and years and hours and hours and hours and just grinding and hard work went into him becoming that good. So that actually veered off a little bit from this thing I'm talking about, but I want you, while I'm talking about vision, while I'm talking about speed of thought, speed of play, instincts, all these things, that realize these are learned things. And you know the old saying, like, if I could do it, you can do it too. It's so true. If Pirlo can do it, you can do it too. The problem and the reason you think you can't, and the reason you don't get better at these areas is because you look at Pirlo and think, I can't become that good. Because you're seeing the finished article. Like I said, you're seeing what years, decades even, of work. You're seeing all of that work concentrated into him as a great player. But you're not thinking about all the hard work that went into it. So you need to realize that you absolutely can do it. You'll have to put in the same level of hard work, maybe even more, to get close or to that level. But if you believe you can't do it, you won't. If you don't think that you can improve certain areas of your life or your game, so speed of thought, vision, passing, shooting, skill moves, whatever, if you think, I can never be as skillful as Ronaldo, then you're in the wrong mindset. Now, in reality, maybe you can never get as skillful as Ronaldo. But if you think you can, and you have a vision, and you have passion, and you put in the work, you may not get as skillful as Ronaldo. I mean, who knows? Maybe you will. You may not get that skillful, but you're going to get pretty damn close. If you've ever heard the saying, shoot for the moon and you'll land on the stars, and although that saying is astronomically incorrect because the moon's closer to us than any stars, but what they're saying is, if you shoot high, even if you don't make that lofty goal you aimed for, as long as you work as hard as you can towards it, you're going to still succeed in some way. So, for example, if you want to become as skillful as Ronaldo and you set up a schedule and you work hard at it every single day, maybe you won't become as skillful as Ronaldo, but guess what's going to happen? You're going to become pretty damn skillful. You're going to be much better than the average player with your skill. You might even make it to a professional level skill ability, right? And that's why you never think things like, I can't become as good as Ronaldo. I can't become as good as Pirlo. I can't get my vision to that level. Because if you start thinking that way, guess what's going to happen? You're not even going to try. You're not going to be able to bring that into your life because you're already saying to yourself, I can't do it, right? Okay, so we spent this first 10 minutes on tangents here. It's just such an important point I want you guys to take in. People who, if you tell people, yeah, I can become as good as Cristiano Ronaldo, they'll think you're delusional, but you kind of have to ignore that, okay? And if you're uncomfortable with, like, admitting it out loud, just make sure internally you're saying it to yourself. I can do this, I can do that, I can do that. And don't cap it. And what I mean is, like, some people, what they'll do is they'll cap their ability or they'll limit themselves. So they'll say, maybe I can't become as good as Ronaldo, but I can become, pretty good. Well, then guess what? You're going to become pretty good. But do you want to become pretty good or do you want to become amazing? I'm hoping you want to become amazing. So set lofty goals with your improvement. Literally tell yourself, I can become as good as Ronaldo. And as long as you put in the work, as long as you set out to do that, again, you may not become Ronaldo. You most likely won't. But you will become really good in the process because you're shooting for the moon and you're going to land on a star. Again, astronomically incorrect, so don't grill me for that in the comments. I'm aware that the moon is closer. That's just the saying, okay? So having said that, And this is why I only have 2 questions, because I knew I was going to get into this and we're already 10 minutes in. So how do you improve the speed of thought? So first thing we went over is, first, be aware that you can. This is something that can be improved. Believe that you can improve it, okay? Especially when it comes to speed of thought, because this has a lot to do with awareness, quick decision making, and vision, okay? So first and foremost, I know the person who gave me this comment said, people think it's vision, but I know there's more to it. But I am going to discuss the vision part of it first, because vision is important. And all vision means, like having good vision, is simply your awareness on the pitch. For example, if we go back to a Pirlo example, Pirlo has good vision because he always knows what's around him. So he knows everything that's around him. He knows what's behind him. He knows what's to his right, to his left, and in front of him. At a whole 360, he knows where every single other player on the pitch is. He knows where the space is. And the reason for this is because he's always looking up. He's always making sure he's aware. He's turned on to the match. Have you ever gone through a match through the motions and you're just kind of like, when you don't have the ball, you're not even looking anywhere. You're just kind of, oh, when I get the ball, I'll do something. Well, I guarantee Pirlo, when he doesn't have the ball, he is surveying everything. He's always making sure he knows where everything is, so that when he gets the ball and he doesn't even look up, yet somehow plays that 40-yard pass to his player perfectly, the reason he can do that is because he knows that he's there. And that comes from vision. That's all vision is. It's an awareness of what's around you on the pitch. It's not some complicated thing. It's just knowing what's around you. So when you think good vision, just think awareness. What is around you? How do you get good at becoming aware? You simply just have to remind yourself throughout the game to know where everyone is. So before you get the ball, you should definitely be looking over your shoulder and making sure you know where everything is. But it's not only when you're about to get the ball. Even when you're moving around, when you're moving into space, when you don't even have the ball. Let's say the ball's in defense and you're a striker and the ball's probably not going to come to you right now. Keep looking around, because if for some reason your keeper gets the ball really quick, if you know where the space is, you know where you can go, you can quickly make that run, go on the counter and score. Things like this. So in any position, make sure you're aware of what's around you. This will make sure that no player sneaks up on you, that you always have a pass because you know where your teammates are. This will make sure you can take advantage of the space around you. It makes sure your first touch is into space and not into an opponent, and so on. So that's all vision is awareness of what's around you. So that's the first part. You do need good vision if you want to improve your speed of thought, because with good vision, when you know where everything is, then you can think more quickly. Okay, my one player's right there, I'm going to play him. Okay, so next is decision making. The thing with speed of thought is you can think to do something very quickly, but if you have poor decision making, you may decide to do the wrong thing, right? So again, vision really comes into play here. With quick decisions, players think that, or at least I think they have to think their way through and assess the options and everything. No, you need to become accustomed to seeing your options in a split second and choosing the one you think is best. But you also have to get comfortable with sometimes choosing the safe option. Now, if you watch, we're going to use Pirlo or Xavi again as an example. If you watch, the majority of their passes are not forward, and the majority of their passes are not 40-yard perfect passes or through balls or, things like that. That's on highlight reels. But if you watch them, a lot of their passes are right back to the person who passed it to them. A lot of them, their passes are simple passes. I think one of the issues with when it comes to speed of thought or quick decision making or something like that is you think that every single one of your passes has to be this amazing through ball or something. You have to get comfortable with the idea that many of your passes are going to be very simple, perhaps even negative passes, and that you are going to have to wait for an opening. Now, if you have good awareness, you'll be able to see when that opening is there, right? And then your decision making comes in, because sometimes you'll see openings that aren't there, but you'll want them to be there, so you'll try and force it. That's poor decision making. You'll notice that Xavi plays, if you look at his old Barcelona matches, you'll notice he'll play a lot of sideway passes, a lot of simple forward passes, or a lot of simple back passes. But then when he has that moment where he sees an opening, and because he has good awareness and vision, he's able to see this, he'll take it. But he's always calculating, when do I make the decision to take the risk in order to play a good through ball or something of that nature, okay? So with your quick decisions, if your instinct tells you play the ball back, do it. If your instinct tells you to take that chance and play a quick ball over the top because you're aware your player is there, do it. I wouldn't pass blindly unless you have to do it because you're in trouble and you have to get rid of the ball. But a lot of players will play blindly in the sense that they don't actually know if their player's there, but they do it anyway. Again, this is why vision is actually a very important component of this. Your speed of thought's not going to be good if your vision's not good, okay? So let's discuss instincts a little more because that's really the thing that's going to help you with your speed of thought. As we all know, you don't have much time on the ball usually in a match, especially if you're in a middle position like a Pirlo, like a Xavi. They play a little more withdrawn, so sometimes they have a little bit more time on the ball, but not always. So one thing with your speed of thought is you can't doubt yourself. If you have an idea of what you're going to do and that quick vision comes into your head, you have to either go with it or play your second option. Like, I never think of do I have 5, 6, 7 options? I only think of 2. The risky kind of through ball or whatever kind of option, or my safe option. And so get into the habit of that as well. What are your options? Think of only 2. Because if you try and assess 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 options, guess what's going to happen? You're going to choose none of them, and you're going to get the ball taken away from you. You're going to take a bad touch or something of that nature. So you need to get used to relying on your instincts to make some of these decisions. And I know that can be scary because you don't want to lose the ball. And so by all means, again, you're going to have to play safe sometimes. Don't get into this habit of, I've got to always play a through ball. I've got to always play this amazing Hollywood pass across the field. Don't get into that habit. I'm not saying you can't try things like that. And I'm not saying don't do things like that. But don't get into the habit of thinking a back pass is a bad thing, right? Now, I'm all for players expressing themselves, and back passes frustrate me too. There's a little part of me that dies inside whenever I have to play the ball backwards. But I know it's necessary, okay, sometimes. All right? So, how to actually improve your speed of thought as well is, again, it's going to come down to practice. A lot of what I do is I'm aware of where my teammates are on the pitch before I receive the ball, even if it's not likely I'll receive the ball. So if I'm about to receive the ball and I know I'm going to receive the ball, I usually know where my teammates are, but I also know where my opponents are. So what this allows me to do is it gives me an option. It gives me many options, right? And I quickly cling on to 1 or 2 of those options. So for example, if I have taken a look around the field, I'm about to receive the ball, and I see that my teammate to my left is there, but there's 2 opponents near him. I'm probably not going to pass that way, so I won't even, that will leave really quickly. I see that another option to the right is taken. I won't do that. I see, obviously, I have an option to play it back, but I could also be aware, and this doesn't just have to do with passing, I could be aware, oh wait, my opponent is quickly closing me down. Maybe I'm going to be able to turn them. Or I'll think, it seems my opponent isn't going to close me down. Maybe I can turn with the ball and then look for another pass. So there's a lot that goes into this. And I know I'm kind of rambling on here. Realize this is not actually an easy area, but there's a lot that goes into it. So first, let's actually break it down so it's a little more organized. First, improve your vision, right? Improve your vision. And that only means your awareness. So next time you're on the pitch, just be aware of what's around you as often as you can. Every 5 seconds even, look up and look around. Look at some old tapes of Xavi. You'll notice him doing this. You'll notice that he is constantly looking over his shoulder, looking side to side, making sure there's nothing behind him. He's doing it all the time. That's why he's always aware of what's there. That's why it always seems that he makes the right decision, because he's just aware of what's going on. And then his, ability as a footballer takes over. He has good technique, so he can play good passes, and that's a whole different thing. But number 1 is vision. Okay? Next is you're going to have to rely on your instincts a little bit. Now, how do you work on your instincts? Obviously, it's practice, repetition, and things like that. So if your instincts aren't good, that doesn't mean you're naturally bad. Again, this is something that can be learned. So your instincts have to improve through practice. So if you want to practice your speed of thought, just make sure while you're in practice, you're making sure you're aware of where everyone is, you're confident in the decisions you're making, you can even practice against the wall, turning, pivoting, passing the ball back to the wall, making decisions. Just try and be very conscious about it, because a lot of players will blindly pass the ball, or a lot of players will panic. Try and be calm. Try and allow yourself to survey the situation. A lot of players, when they're pressed or they have an opponent on them, they panic. But think of it this way. When you're in any other situation outside of soccer, what happens when you panic? You don't perform, you freeze up, or you make a bad decision. The same goes for when you're in a match. The same goes for when you're playing soccer. So relax, be calm. I'm not saying like be relaxed and, like just casual. I'm not talking about being casual. I mean, just relax your mind. Relax it. Don't get all up in your head and just be like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, but I don't want to mess up. I don't want to do this wrong, or whatever. Just relax, okay? So after you've got the vision, after you're allowing your instincts to come in, you need to follow through. You need to make that quick decision. You don't have a second or two to go over your options, right? You have to make the decision and commit to the decision. Even if it ends up being the wrong decision, it's fine. We all make mistakes. Even the best players in the world, Xavi, Pirlo, they've made mistakes, plenty of them during their career. That's fine. But commit to a decision. If you only half-assed a decision, you're probably not going to do it well. And even if there was an opportunity for it to come off, it's not going to come off because you're not committing to that decision. You're not making a quick decision. So if I make this an example, so let's say you are about to receive the ball, you've looked around you, there's a player behind you, but you know if you take a touch to the left, you'll be able to create that space for the pass. And you're aware that you have a teammate on the sideline who's wide open. So you take the touch, your opponent now has to follow you, you've created that yard of space, your instincts are telling you your teammate's there, you've seen him, your instincts are telling you, yes, you should pass the ball that way, it's going to create space, it's going to give them plenty of room, and then you make the decision, you quickly make that decision, right, that you're going to follow through. And this whole process happens within seconds. It's all very quick. It happens within seconds. And again, it may sound intimidating, but over time, you'll get better at this. Again, I'm saying all of these things, but the best way to improve at this is to do it. Just like anything we go over in these podcasts, the best way to improve is to do it, is through action, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. This is a hard topic to cover. Hopefully there's some stuff in there that you can use. Again, vision, instincts, quick decision making, follow through, commit to the decision, and go from there. Now, again, this is not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. You got to work at it. You got to practice. Let's get on to the next question. So we only have this might be a long podcast because we only have 7 minutes left. And the next question is another good one. So what have we gone over so far? We've gone over how to improve your speed of thought, your decision making, your vision, your instincts, things of that nature. We went over basically before that, we actually did 10 minutes on what did we go over? Was it passion? It was, is not allowing people to tell you can't do something, or not allowing yourself to tell you that you can't do something. So realize that if you don't think you can do something, you're never going to do it. But if you do believe you can do it, you may not reach the exact level you're aiming for, but you're going to get close if you put in the work. And I'm saying you might actually reach that level that you're aiming for. Don't even think that you can't do that. But if you commit to it and go for it, you're going to reap the rewards. Okay. So next question, and we'll spend a little bit of time on this, is how to learn fast in soccer. Someone asked me how to learn fast in soccer like the pros. Okay. So let's let me see. I'm going to see how I'm going to format this or organize this. Okay. So first and foremost, let me come out and say that I'm not sure what you mean by learning fast, but there is a limit to how fast you can learn, because anything that you want to become masterful at, you have to put in a lot of work, repetition, consistency, things of that nature, incremental integrity. So I hope you're not asking this question hoping that I'm going to provide you with some secret or some silver bullet or something that's going to magically make you better, because I don't have anything like that. No one has anything like that. All I can do is give you some ideas that you can try and implement. Okay, so let's get that out of the way first. There is no secret method that is hidden and the soccer gods have bestowed upon select people, and I happen to have been one of those people, and I'm going to reveal it to the world. No, it doesn't work that way. You can learn soccer fast and get better fast simply by implementing a few simple ideas. Now, these ideas are simple, but the implementation of them is far from it. So Let's go over it. Now, you said how to learn fast in soccer like the pros. Well, let's realize something about the pros. It's their profession. They practice pretty much every day. They have games every week. At least, for the most part, they're in shape. They have personal trainers. They have nutritionists. They have, physical therapists. They have a whole thing organized for them, which is to say they're practicing all the time. They have coaches that are looking at their game and saying, okay, we need to improve this area and improve this area, so we're going to put them on a routine for that. So essentially, they are working on their game every single day. Now, you don't have access to the physical therapist. You don't have access to the nutritionists. You don't have access to the professional level coaches for the most part. Maybe some of you are in academies, which means you have a little more exposure to that, but for the most part, most of us don't. So how do we do this? Well, it means we have to put in a lot of work. We have to be our own nutritionist. We have to be our own physical therapist. We have to be our own trainer, our own coach. We have to be our own motivator. And that's just the nature of it. So if you want to learn like the pros, emulate the pros. What do they do? What are they practicing? How often are they practicing? Right? So as far as pros go, usually it's at least a practice every day. Sometimes they do 2 sessions. I mean, I've even heard of 3 a days in preseason. But that's I don't know how common that is. But the fact of the matter is they're practicing every single day. It's focused training and team training. They're consistent. They're being challenged. They analyze their game. They analyze their training, and they're repetitive. So we have to apply this into our own training if you really want to learn in the same manner the pros do, or at least get close to that point. So the first idea is repetition. And there's 3 minutes left, but we're going to spend a little bit of time on this. Repetition is simply doing something over and over again. Now, that's not glamorous. That may not even be fun. But how do you get better at something? You do it over and over again correctly with the right form. Let's throw that in there, because if you do, like, for example, practice a step over, but you're doing it wrong and you keep practicing it wrong, you're going to get good at it, but you're going to get good at doing it wrong. So repetition with good form and good technique is one way. Right? So let's say you want to learn quickly how to score more goals. How do you do that? Well, first is your repetition. You need to practice your goal scoring. You need to be aware of what training you need to be doing. You need to analyze your technique. You need to analyze your shots. You need to be like, okay, so why did I miss there? Oh, okay, I didn't wrap my foot around the ball. I was trying to curl it and I didn't wrap my foot around the ball. I'll remember to do that next time. What happened there? Oh, I hit the top of the ball. I scuffed it. It rolled towards the goal. So constantly analyze your game. Repeat the things you want to improve. Focus on the areas that you want to improve. And this is an important one. You need to determine what areas of your game do you want to improve over other areas. So, for example, because you can't focus on everything at once. If you try and focus on improving every single area of your game at once, you will end up improving nothing, because you don't have enough time in the day to do that. I don't even think professionals do that. They have tactical training, they have certain other training, they might, they get plenty of touches on the ball, but they're not going to, for example, be shooting the whole session. They're not going to be it's not going to be fitness the whole session. They may have sessions that do that for a little bit, but they usually are focused. So, for example, the strikers may go off and work on their finishing with a coach, because that's what they need to be working on. The defenders will probably go in and work on defending crosses or set pieces, because that's something that defenders need to focus on. So focus on what it is you want to improve. You want to improve your goal scoring? Focus on it. You want to improve a certain skill move? Focus on that. You want to improve, you want to improve your defending? Focus on that, and so on. Then repetition comes in. So you're focused on it. You need to be doing it often. Consistency comes in. You won't get any better unless you're consistent with it. That means doing it every day or every other day or very, very often. You need to be challenging yourself. So, for example, if you're doing a step over and you're not that good at it, but you've been practicing for 3 weeks and now you have the technique down, now try and do it faster and faster. Now try and burst a little more when you do it. Now try and, do it in a match maybe, or do it in practice. See if it works. And if it doesn't work, analyze it. Even if it does work, analyze it. How can I get better at it? Be aware of what you need to improve on, and do not be ashamed to admit what you need improvement on, because the worst thing you can do is get upset for not being good at something and then just going, you know what, I'm just not, this is not meant for me, or you know what, I'm good enough at this already. Don't do that, okay? Be aware of what you need to improve in and then do it, okay? So that's how you learn fast at something in soccer. So in a certain area. Now, if you want to overall get better, like the pros you said, I'm assuming you don't have the time because you probably, whoever asked the question, you may have school, you may have other engagements. You probably don't have the time to have 2-a-day sessions, right? That are like 2 hours long. You probably don't have time to do the video analysis that professional players do. You don't have the time to do that, and it's fine. That's by design. I mean, a professional player is called a professional player because it's their job. You think of someone with a regular 9-to-5 job. Well, professional players do the same thing, except they are, playing soccer instead. But it's still a job. It's a passion. It's a great job to have, wouldn't it be? But it's still a job. So their whole life revolves usually around that. It's their craft, it's their profession, it's their passion. Their whole life is based around that. That's why you can't really be out of shape and be a professional soccer player. That's why they do the video analysis. It's a part of their passion. It's a part of their job. That's why they have the 2-a-day. So I don't expect you to be able to practice as much as the pros. You're just going to have to do as much as you can. But just remember, first and foremost, focus on what it is you want to improve on. I mean, seriously, right now, if you are listening to this and this is something that interests you and you want to get fast or get better fast at a certain area in soccer, write down right now what you want to focus on. So analyze your game. Think of your game right now. Think of the way you play. Think of what you need improvements in. Think of what you want to improve. Think of something that you, in a month's time, want to see significant improvement in. I want you to write it down under soccer focuses. Write soccer focuses and then write down let's say 3 areas of your game you want to improve in. 1 to 3, okay? So going over 3 would be a little too much, but 1 to 3 areas, and do them in level of importance. So if, let's say you really want to improve your finishing, put that as number 1. And then say you've always wanted to learn the Maradona, put that as number 2. And say your ball control could use some work, put that as number 3. That's just a suggestion. You don't have to do that. But those areas. But seriously, write down soccer focuses and write down the things you need or want to improve in the most. Okay? So you've gotten those written down. So now you know what you need to focus on. Having focus is very powerful, guys. People think it isn't. They think like, oh, you ever think this to yourself? Like someone tells you something or mentions a book or a video or something that you're like, oh, dude, I would love to take a look at that, and you mean it, like you actually do and are interested in what they're talking about, and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm very interested now. I'll have to remember to watch that or read that or look at that later, right? Then you get home and like a week goes by and you've completely forgotten, and then you remember and you're like, oh, I completely forgot about that. I was actually interested. The reason that happened is because you weren't focused on it anymore, right? That's why I'm having you write down your focuses right now. Because if you write it down and you have it near you, then you'll have that reminder in front of you like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be focusing on these things. And if you look at it enough times, then you'll have it in your memory and you'll be like, okay, right, I'm focusing on this, I'm focusing on that. I want to improve my shooting, so I need to be focusing on that, so on. So write down your 1 to 3. So if you can only think of 2 that you really want to focus on, put that down. You don't need to write 3. And in fact, if you're forcing yourself to write 3, don't. Write just the 1 or 2 that you really, really want. But if you are passionately wanting to concentrate on 3 things, it's fine. I just wouldn't go beyond that. So write those 3 things down after you've analyzed your game. Now what you need to do is you need to be focusing just on those things of your game. Now, I'm not saying neglect areas like fitness. I'm not saying neglect other areas. But your main practices, if you want to get better at these areas, need to be based around these areas. So now it's time for consistency. You need to be doing whatever you've written down every single day. So let's say it's finishing, right? And this one's, I don't want you going too nuts with this because you shouldn't be shooting every single day. You need to give your body a rest. So make sure you're aware of your body. Make sure you're not overexerting yourself. But let's say you put finishing there. Then try and do something that works on your finishing at least a little bit every single day and have repetition, right? So let's say you put ball control in there. You know, a simple one for ball control you can do is go to a wall and just kick against it for like 30 minutes every single day. That's a great one for ball control. Kick it up, control it, kick it up, control it, maybe even work on your shooting technique, lock your ankle, shoot it against the wall, practice locking your ankle. As it bounces back, you're going to have to control it, set yourself up for the next shot, lock your ankle, practice your shot, control it again. And let's say passing is another one you want to work on. Perfect, you're already at the wall, pass it against the wall, control it. You're already working on 2 areas now. Get some cones, put them against the wall, try and hit the target. You see where I'm going with this, right? Now you need to be doing that as often as possible. Consistency. Next is challenge yourself, okay? If you don't challenge yourself, you will stay in place. So for example, if any of you are runners, you jog, you run distance. If you run a mile in 6 minutes and you don't push on from there, you're only going to ever be able to run a mile in 6 minutes. And this actually blew me away because I used to run a mile every day with a friend of mine in the summer, and I would hit maybe like a 5 something, like a 5 minute mile, maybe a little more. And every single day I was getting like 5:30, or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'm getting 5:30 every day. It should be pretty easy to get 5:15, right? It's only 15 seconds off. So I went for 5:15 the next day, and I was dying by the end of it. And the reason for this was my body had become used to being able to do a mile in 5 minutes and 30 seconds very, very easily. But because I wasn't challenging myself, because I wasn't challenging myself and pushing, when I went for that 5:15, I was exhausted. I thought my body was going to be used to it. So make sure you're challenging yourself. If you're getting really good at your control, start hitting the ball against the wall harder. Start challenging yourself. If you're getting really good with one foot, but your other foot's a little weak, start challenging yourself. Use that foot. If you're shooting and you can finish really well from like 8 yards or closer, move out a little more and see if you can finish from 10 or more. So keep challenging yourself. And it's by challenging yourself that you're going to get better. If you keep doing the exact same thing over and over again, I know we talked about repetition. You do want to do repetition. You do want to be able to do the same thing over and over again very well. But once you've gotten so good at that it's basically second nature, you need to start challenging yourself. If you, for example, dribble through cones at the same speed every single time, you're going to get good at dribbling at that speed, but you're not going to be able to do it any faster within control because you haven't been practicing that. So keep challenging yourself. And after all of these things, analyze and use analysis. Analyze your practice. Say, what did I do well and what did I not do so well? Then you know what to continue to focus on. So for example, let's say you've been doing this for 3 weeks and you're kicking against the wall and you noticed you took like practically perfect touches every single time. Your ball control is great. So you analyze that and you say, okay, good, we're getting a lot better. But maybe it's time to start challenging myself more. Maybe it's time, because I'm doing this so well, to start adding another element into this, right? So maybe you hit the ball a little harder. Maybe you practice your directional control because you haven't been working on that. Or you introduce some other kind of challenging aspect, okay? So if you really want to get fast at soccer, you need to do that. It's going to take a lot of research on your part, a lot of awareness. It's going to take a lot of work and discipline and consistency. I think we actually spoke about discipline in the last podcast, so take a look at that. But if you really want to get fast in soccer, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of awareness from you, but it will be worth it. There is no silver bullet. There is no magic pill. The soccer gods have not bestowed any knowledge on me that's going to help you get really good fast easily. It takes hard work. We talked about the iceberg effect earlier, where you only see the surface of the iceberg and you don't see the submerged part, the part under the water, which is like 10 times bigger. That's the hard work, which shows that little piece up there, that mastery in something, or that skill is the top of the iceberg. But you don't see that hard work. So grow your iceberg. That's kind of lame. It's kind of corny to say that, but grow your iceberg. So make it so that your iceberg is huge under the water. You've put in the work. You've put in the effort. You've put in the research. You've left no stone unturned. And then you'll see incredible improvements in your in your game, in your ability as a soccer player. Wow. Oh man, I think that's a sign that it's time for me to bring this to a close. All right, guys. So again, a lot of tangents in this one, rambling on for a bit. My voice is actually getting a little bit sore. So that's definitely a time to stop. But hopefully this has been helpful. Leave any more of your questions down below. Keep asking them. These are the 2 questions I answered today. 2 of the 3 things I talked about today were questions asked to me. I know I go off on a lot of tangents, I'm going to try and stop doing that. It's easier for me to do that because I kind of get passionate about it, which makes it easier for me to convey what I need to convey. Okay, so thanks guys for listening. Let's think of a hashtag we can do here. Actually, let's not even do a hashtag. Let's put in the comments the 1 to 3 areas you're going to focus on in your training, okay? So I want to hear from you. I want to see from you what areas you are going to focus on. I really want you to do this, and not just put it in the comments, actually write it down physically on a piece of paper and put it somewhere where you're going to see it often. Your 3 focuses, 1 to 3. So you don't have to put 3, it can be just 1, it can be 2, or it can be 3, okay? Write in the comments along with your question, if you have one, your 3 focuses for what you want to improve. And it can be anything. There's no set thing it has to be. It's just the 3 things you really think you need to improve or want to improve. It can be vision, it can be ball control, it can be confidence, it can be a wide array of anything, okay? Of many things. So put that down there in the comments along with any questions you have for the next podcast. My phone is going off, so that's about the time to end. Remember, put your focuses down there. Thank you for listening. Please like this. I have no idea how long this is going to be because I've put my timer off because we're already past 30 minutes. So if it's super long, I'm sorry. And if you've made it all the way to the end, you're awesome because this is a lot to listen to. I can't even listen to myself for this long. So thanks for sticking with it. If you're new to Simply Soccer, if you're actually new to Simply Soccer and you've made it this far, good job. That's amazing. Please consider subscribing. We do these podcasts every Friday, and we do regular videos during the week as well, usually Monday, Wednesday, and I'm going to start introducing them on Saturday as well. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. Let me know your focuses. Leave your questions down below, and I will see you on the next video, or I'll talk to you in the next podcast.